Well, here's that dreaded moment where I have to walk into the barn and see what today has in store for us. At lambing time, you just never know. Most of our video today is going to focus on a question that one of the viewers put to me. They asked me why we don't just roll out the hay for the sheep in the fields to eat. So I thought, I'll make a video of that because it's something that I could go on and on and on about. And I said I wouldn't make it into a whole video. So I tried to cut it short, but I really could make it into a whole video. But for now, we're going to see what happened with the lambs. I know we got more lambs in there, brand new ones. So let's go inside and see what's happening in there today. Okay, so this morning was really busy in the main barn. Again, I haven't made it to the Coveralls before lunch. It gets too busy. So, in the Suffolk group here, the ewe that lost her lamb and was prolapsing, she's chewing her cud today, so she looks a little bit better. The thing that was taking me so long this morning was that I've been tagging all the lambs that came during that flurry of activity one of the days, 2 days ago. So we got these two tagged and they look good to go. And we tagged Yellow and his mom. They seem to be doing really good too. I tagged the ewe that was hypothermic, who lost one of her lambs to hypothermia, but the other lamb looks good. This one is tagged and ready to go too. This one had twins this morning, and they appear to be doing well. They're still wet, so. And then we also tagged Pinky and her new mom and sister. They look still good. These two were born this morning as well. They were having a little hard time getting on mom, so I fed them a bottle. But they seemed to be good. They just hadn't latched on properly. And this one with the lambs, where the lamb was kicking the mom in the face, the little cute one, they got tagged today too. And Elsie and Whitey got tagged. And these two were just born. They're the last ones born this morning. A boy and a girl, really nice ones. And these ones were born as well. And this is the mom who's not feeling well. She's still not feeling well. And every time I come in here, her lamb is laying down. But this lamb is the happiest lamb you've ever seen. He's always leaping and jumping and having a good time. We still don't know what's wrong with her. We're still treating her. As I go from barn to barn today, you can see the progression of the lambs from those newborn little ones in the main barn to the fall lambs that we just looked at, to these girls who are all turning a year old now. So you can see the life cycle. Hi, girls. Hi. Hello. You guys look really nice. You've done well over the winter. Yes, you have. Hi, Hunchy. You're a sweetheart. And you're a sweetheart too. Yes, and you're chewing my jacket. I don't know why you'd have to do that. Again, I'm a little late doing my chores today because I was delayed tagging and looking after lambs in the lambing barn. So I'm doing all their salt and minerals in the afternoon. But as I go around getting these guys organized, I thought maybe I'd respond to a comment someone made on one of my videos today, or yesterday. They asked why we wouldn't just roll out a bale of hay in the fields and pastures for the sheep instead of doing all the feeders and feeding indoors. And their reason was that if we roll it out in the pastures, it will get kind of incorporated into the pastures and give nutrients back to the soil. Well, I could make an entire video on this topic, but I'll just make it quick. There are many reasons we don't do that and don't ever want to do that. I know a lot of people do, so it's not a criticism of those people who do, but for one thing, we have barns and we have a great setup here, especially with these coveralls. It's pretty well equivalent to being outside, except without having to deal with all the pressures of the weather: rain, snow, sleet, wind, bugs, too much sun. So with the curtains on that we have, it's like being outdoors, but with a little canopy over top to protect you from the nasty stuff. As a result, our feed stays fresh and clean. If you roll a bale of hay out in the field, it's like how we roll bales of hay out in the pens for bedding. You see what they do. The sheep run along and they'll start eating at it right away. But I can tell you, within half an hour, nobody's eating it. Because within that amount of time, the hundreds of sheep have walked in it, pooped in it, peed in it. It's been rolled on top of an existing dirty environment. In the case of the barns, it would be the bedding pack, which is dirty. And if you're in the pastures, same thing. You're rolling it onto an environment that is full of parasites. No matter how clean you keep your farm, there are parasites out there. You cannot avoid them. So they're not only going to be eating poop and pee and maybe have hay that's rained on, which goes rank really fast, which will lead to listeriosis and other diseases, but they're also in an area where they could be picking up parasites. If they're outside all year and you're rolling out the hay, they will treat that hay also as a bedding pack, because they don't want to lay in muck, they don't want to lay in the snow. They want to lay in something warm and cozy, so as soon as they've eaten a bit, they'll all start to lie in it. And again, that's contaminating your feed, and it's just not ideal. It's something that we would do if we were in dire straits, but we wouldn't do it by choice. Another thing that has nothing to do with health, but is equally as important, is if you're rolling your hay out, you may as well roll it out raised off the ground so it stays clean. But as you see, we use those small wrap bales instead of using the tube wrap bales, and there is a real reason we use those smaller bales, even though they use a little more plastic, and arguably they would take a little more time to wrap up. But in the long run, we can bring the feed right to the barns, so they're very close. And you saw the conditions as I walked along the pathway to the barn here, and that's got gravel in it. It's mucky. So if we had it rolled out in the field or the pasture here, even if we rotated it where we rolled it out each time so that it was in a new swath, to drive the tractor there to roll it out, you're going to be creating muck. So you're actually going to be destroying your fields, not making them more nutrient rich or better, because when your tires are going into the mud and it's churning up, you've destroyed it. You've destroyed the pack, the roots, everything, and it's not going to grow back. What's going to happen is weeds are going to fill in. So we don't want to do that, and we don't want to be working out in a blizzard. We don't want to be working out in rain. The same things the animals really truly don't want to be doing is what we don't want to be doing either. I mean, if you have the choice of being cozy, why wouldn't you? So, and the other thing was, if you roll the hay out in the fields, you will say that yes, the nutrients are going to go back into the field. But like I said, they're going to end up walking in it, and they're going to end up laying in it. So you're going to actually, unless your sheep are starving to death, you're going to have a pack left over like this. And that's not putting nutrients into your field. It will compost down, but what will happen is, because it's a thick mat, it will compost down and actually smother out the grass underneath. And what grows back when the grass is smothered out is weeds. So the whole thing just doesn't make sense to us. If you want your sheep to be in fantastic shape, you really have to feed them the best quality, cleanest hay you possibly can. And like I said, I can see it if you're starting out and you don't have any alternatives. But if you have an alternative, I really don't see why anyone would do it. But it is personal choice. It's not a criticism of anyone else, but it's something that we would never do. Like, never. We would get out of sheep before we would work in conditions like that and leave our sheep in conditions like that. It's different in countries where you don't have extreme weather conditions, and the sheep have a large territory to roam in. Might be a little different, but we don't have that in Canada. This is a cold country where we are basically locked up half of the year. And you know that we like our sheep to go outside. We let our sheep out way more than most confinement systems do. But at the same time, when the weather's bad, we don't want hoof problems. We don't want parasite problems. We don't want them shivering. We want them to thrive. We are shepherds, and I truly believe that a shepherd is meant to look after their flock. That's the whole goal. These are not wild animals. These are domestic animals. They've been domesticated for hundreds of years. And to say that they will do just as well as a wild animal out there in poorer conditions, yes, you will get a hardier sheep because all the ones who can't hack it are going to die. I don't know why you'd want to be that ruthless. I mean, this is a business. If you're doing this for a business, then you want your business to thrive and succeed. You don't want it to fail, and dying sheep is failure. So, yeah, like I say, I could go on and on, definitely on a whole video, but I'm done their salt and mineral now. They're all looking at me like they agree. Yes, we like it indoors. We like to run around and play, but we like nice feed. And we like nice clean bedding. Yeah. And the two shouldn't be the same thing. Bedding and feed should be separate things. Just a couple more things, because I know there are people who will argue my point. And one of the big arguments that I get from people who adhere to the rolling out of the bales outdoor thing is that they have barns, and the barns or the lean-tos are open for the sheep to go into, but they won't go into it. They'll actually prefer to stay outside in the rain and the muck and the snow. And I'll tell you why they don't go in. Because they were raised outdoors, and they don't understand that the barn is shelter. What they think is that the barn is a trap. It's dark, it's unknown, and sheep are creatures of habit. So, like, even you see when we move sheep to new barns, when they've never been in a barn before, like with our adults, it's not a problem anymore because they understand the pastures, the coveralls, the main barns, but you'll see it in the lambs. And when we bring the lambs over to the old barn, which is darker and it's totally new to them, sometimes it's a real ordeal getting them into that barn because they're afraid of it. They don't understand it. And same when we release the lambs to bring them over to the Coveralls, as we're going to be doing shortly. Oftentimes we have a hard time getting them out of there too. And it's the same reason. They get to the door and they look outside and it's like, holy cow, what is all this? Like this openness, and it's scary for them. So they have to learn it. But once you learn it and give them the options, and we do give our sheep options here, our barn doors are usually always open so they can go in or go out as they please. And I can tell you 100% that you will never see our sheep laying out in the snow, in the rain, in the mud, or even wanting to go out in those conditions. But they can, but they don't. That's me getting off my high horse now. Sorry about that, but it is a little bit of a pet peeve. We want the best for our sheep, so that's my answer to that question. I actually give the same advice to customers who go home with our sheep. I always tell them to lock them in the area where they're going to be keeping them first, like their lean-to or their barn, and to leave them there for a few days until the sheep become accustomed to the new environment before you let them loose into the pasture. Because if you just bring the sheep home into a new place and you just drop them off in the pasture, they don't understand that the new building is their home, and they can oftentimes be afraid to go into it. So it's all about teaching them where their home is and then letting them have the option to choose whether they want to be outside or want to stay inside for the day. Hi guys. Cash, you look so lovely. Okay, we're going to go help Arnie now. We're moving some of the plastic off the bale. And I thought I'd show you. This is what your field would look like at this time of year and in the spring if you were feeding on the fields and rolling out in the fields, because you would have to drive your tractor through it and it would totally destroy your field. One more thing about feeding in the pasture. Yes, it will leave nutrients behind if there's hay and stuff left over, but it's kind of like your own lawn at home. If you have trees and leaves fall down, in the fall you're going to rake all those leaves up and package them away. And same with if you're cutting your grass and it leaves windrows, you probably are going to rake that leftover grass up too. And if it was nature, leaving those things on the ground would be fine because it would put nutrients back in the soil. But the reason we scoop it up is because we have grasses and things we've planted and want to maintain. And if you leave leaves, thick clumps of grass, or in the case of the sheep like we're talking about, hay, what it does is it smothers out all your good grasses that you're needing for pasture and grazing and that you've spent money seeding down, and now it's going to get smothered. Yes, it's going to get nutrients, but what you're going to grow as your crop through that pile of debris is 100% weeds. And we don't want our sheep eating weeds. We don't want our pastures or our paddocks or anything to become covered in weeds. There's no nutrition in weeds. Some of them can be actually poisonous to sheep, and it's a mess. And the little guys in the coverall, they all look like they're doing really good again today. Nothing seems amiss anyway. These guys still aren't sorted, but it'll happen shortly. You just do what you can do. You're always in catch-up mode, it seems. It looks like they might put on a little display for us. I just finished feeding their moms, so usually that starts it. Hi, you guys. They just have to go in that box too. Watch out, you're gonna get stampeded. The ewe in the middle of the pen there, that's Lucy's mom again. She's so concerned about Lucy. That's Lucy. She said, stay with me. Don't go running off with those hooligans. They're a bad influence. Well, on to do the next barn. We just put out some fresh bedding for the ewes that are drying up. So these guys aren't getting any grain or anything like that. They're just on dry hay. And the lambs were on them long enough that we don't usually have any problems. But as we go through here, we do have to make sure that the udders are drying up nicely, that they're not getting red and inflamed or lopsided, or the ewes are limping, because sometimes they'll limp on their back leg if their udder is sore. But everyone looks good in here so far, so good. Girls got some bedding too. These are the Suffolks that are due to lamb next. They're still in the coverall, but I can see that udders are starting to form here. The earliest this group could go is January 25th. So right now, this group, we're just basically watching that everyone stays in good health and isn't showing any adverse signs to being pregnant. And again, so far, so good. So pretty well all the jugs in the barn are full right now. Even though I tagged a ton of them, they're still not quite ready to go out. And we just had these two have lambs. This one had twin lambs here, a boy and a girl. She's a first timer. Right after the twin Suffolk lambs, we had this little Suffolk have a lamb. And she actually had two lambs, two little girls. Excuse me, you're kind of hidden in the hay. So these guys are still sopping wet. So right now we've had 44 ewes lamb, and we're pretty well getting twins every time now. You're a good mommy. Oh, you're very nice. Guy's up right now. Hi, buddy. Are you up? Your mom's not still feeling well. She's not. She never, ever lies down. I've never seen her lying down. So, I think we've done about all I can do in the main barn now, and everybody's fed and all the lambs are born, and it looks to be quiet for a second. Quincy and Hilton are here. They're the dads of the Suffolk lambs that are being born at the moment. And I think it's time to call it a day. So thank you for watching, and I hope you join us again tomorrow for the next episode at Ewetopia Farms. Bye for now.